So guys, it has been a long time between book chats, which is going to wreak havoc on my ability to be able to retell some of the stories for you guys, but I wanted to share with you some of the books that I've been reading lately and books that I've been loving and what I thought about them and all those good things. So I'm going to jump straight into it. I'm going to start with a book that I absolutely loved and at the same time it broke my heart. It's called Unlit Star by Lindy Zart. And I stumbled across this book randomly and downloaded it, and then at the same time one of you guys recommended it to me, so I knew that I had to read it. And I didn't know going in what it was even going to be about because I downloaded a whole heap of books all at the same time and I couldn't really remember what the synopsis of each one was. It's about a guy who was popular and cool and had everything in life come really easy to him. He was good at sport, but he was good at academics as well. He's just graduated high school and he was in a major boating accident that left him severely scarred and with a limp, and just in the end he's just sort of wallowing in self-pity because his whole life has basically been changed. It went from being really easy to being really difficult just like that. Then we have this girl who has always been a little bit of an outsider, always has been really nice but looked at life differently, and they kind of get thrown together because she is spending the summer helping his mum out and cleaning his house, and she sees him wallowing in pity and decides that that's just not good enough and that he needs to get up and get back on with his life because he lived, which is more than some other people can say. So they kind of get thrown together and she really pushes him and he starts to see her for the first time as this amazing person that she is, and they start to fall in love. And then you kind of find out that she's kind of keeping a secret that will change their lives forever. And I knew about 25% of the way through the book that this book was going to absolutely devastate me, and it did, it really did, but I would still highly recommend reading it. It was a very contemplative book, if that's a good way to describe it. It was, it had a lot of lessons about life, and it made you think, and it made you want to stop and really appreciate what you have in life, because there's always going to be somebody else that's worse off than you, and there's always going to be somebody else who would love to have the opportunities that you have and don't because of illness or something that's happened to them. And I really, really liked it, but you're going to need tissues. If you like something like The Fault in Our Stars, then I think that you'll enjoy this book because it has the same kind of vibe to it and the same, it's really well written and it really makes you stop and think, and that's what I enjoyed about it. The next book I wanted to talk about is Within These Walls by J.L. Berg. Again, this book is set in a way that you'd think would be quite sad. It is. It's about a girl who has spent her entire life or more of her life in hospital than she has out of hospital. She was born with a congenital heart defect. So now she's like 22, and like I said, she's literally spent most of her life in hospital. She has been quite sheltered. It's just her and her mum, and she hasn't got to live a life that most people would want. And that doesn't get her down. She just has this list of things that she was always wanting to do, these things that a lot of people take for granted, like putting your feet in the ocean or going to prom or getting your first kiss or things like that. Things that, like I said, a lot of people would take for granted. She just wants, and she wants to keep on living the best that she can, even though she knows the thing with her heart could eventually kill her one day, and a lot earlier than people would like. So she meets this guy who's working in the hospital, and he has his own interesting backstory. He, again, had a lot to offer. His life was going really, really fantastically. And then his girlfriend or fiance was killed in a car crash, and he basically never left the hospital that he last saw his fiance in. And he's then sort of left his promising life and has been working kind of like as a janitor type person in the hospital. He kind of moves up the ranks a little bit, and they meet because he starts helping her out a bit, and he brings her a secret extra pudding cup each night, and they just have this really kind of innocent beginning relationship that then develops into something more, and he makes it his goal in life to help her achieve these things that she has on this wish list of things that she wants to do with her life. And it's a really, really heartwarming story. There are definitely some sort of gut-wrenching sad bits in it, but overall I'm really happy with the way it ends and the where it goes, and I thought that they had like a really nice relationship, so I quite enjoyed that one as well. What have we got next? One More Chance by Abbi Glines was released at some point during the last time I did my book chat. One More Chance is part of the Rosemary Beach novel series, but it's the second book of Grant and Harlow. Grant has been one of my favourite characters in the entire series, so I was really excited when he got his own story. And the last book left on a cliffhanger, and a lot of people were unhappy with Grant, but I kind of understood where he was coming from, and I knew he would make things right, and he did make things right. Abbi Glines has this way of writing really great stories, but also have a lot of steaminess, and you get that romance side to it, but they also have that teen angst or young adult angst, and there's still a storyline, so the story will progress, and you do get to know and love the characters, and I just think she's awesome, and I love everything that she writes, and I loved the way that she kind of wound up Grant and Harlow's story. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Abbi Glines. If you haven't read any of her books, do yourself a favour and go out and read them. Another book that I want to talk about is Sweet Thing by Renee Carlino. This was another one that was a recommendation from you guys. This book has a little bit to do with music. Again, it's a romance novel, but there's a music element to it. So if you like music, then I think you'll enjoy this one. This is about a woman who's 25 years old, so she's my age, and going through a little bit of a quarter-life crisis. Her father dies suddenly, and she goes to New York to take over looking after his cafe. And she's at a little bit of a point in her life where she doesn't quite know what she wants to do. She's always had this love of music, but at the same time, she's always been wary of musicians and things like that because her father was a musician, and she's always believed that he just was too much of like a flighty person to stay with her mum. They separated when she was very, very young, and she still had a good relationship with her dad, but at the same time, I guess she almost didn't think that he did the right thing by he was too kind of much of a creative soul and too flighty to stay with them, and she's kind of had that same opinion of musicians overall. So she went in a different route, has gotten like a business degree, and she's kind of keeping away from her music and that passion that she has. But she meets this guy, and he is a musician, and they become roommates, and she starts to really be attracted to him and fall for him, and he wants her, but she doesn't like the idea of being with a musician for the same reasons of why she thought that her mother and father had broken up. And then you basically spend the whole book, there's a lot of tension and back and forth, and she wants him but won't go for him, and he wants her but she doesn't want him, so then he goes for other girls, and she gets jealous. It's one of those things that I think at some points it did get a little bit annoying for me. It was a little bit too much back and forth, where you just felt like saying to her, grow up and understand that this guy is so good for you, and you're judging him harshly, which for me was interesting because a lot of people said it was a really, really sweet book, but I actually got quite frustrated in a lot of it because of her and the way that she was acting, which is interesting because usually it's the male character that you get really frustrated with. In this instance, the guy was trying to do all the right things and she just wasn't having a bar of it. So that was a little bit frustrating, but in the end we eventually got to the place we wanted to go, and they sorted their stuff out, and she kind of got over her hang-ups with musicians in general, and she even got to play a bit of music herself, and you kind of got to see her grow and sort herself out. But it was a very long journey for her to get through this like quarter life crisis. So I'll say that if I wouldn't be surprised if it frustrates some of you, because it definitely frustrated me, but if you like the sound of the story in general, then I definitely give it a read. Seeking Havok by Lila Felix was another book that I stumbled across randomly. This one is about a girl who has a mother who's basically borderline abusive, I would say. I mean, she doesn't hurt her, but she is a drug addict and is a bit of a prostitute as well, and Havok is just trying to get through high school and make something of her life, and has to sort of take care of her mother, and sometimes it's actually quite heartbreaking reading some of this stuff. She has to spend nights on the street when her mother doesn't want her around because she's entertaining clients and things like that. It's really depressing to think that there are people out there that may be living this kind of life, and teenagers who are trying to make it out of that life. And she meets this guy randomly while she's working one night, and she kind of is attracted to him straight away, and he likes her, and they kind of meet on and off, but again she's very hesitant to share much of her life because obviously it's quite bad. And he kind of becomes this person for her that doesn't know anything about her bad situation. He is her way of stepping away from the terribleness that is her life and just being normal for a little bit of time. And at the same time, every night she listens to this radio host and starts kind of calling in, having this kind of verbal relationship with this radio talk back host that gives advice to people. People call in and talk about their problems, and they kind of have a relationship just via the radio. And then you eventually find out that their paths kind of cross, and there's an intersection between the guy that she's hanging out with and the guy that she's talking onto the radio, and that causes some issues as well. But I really liked the way it was written. It felt really real, and I liked the chemistry between the main characters, and I just thought it was a really good, well-written not teen angst, because I think they're older. It's like a young adult, new adult kind of book that is dramatic, but also is fun and lighthearted at the same time. I don't even know how that's possible, but it manages to blur those lines. So I really enjoyed Seeking Havok, and I would highly recommend it if you like contemporary kind of new adult novels. Last few things I want to talk about. I read the start of the Sterling Shore series by C.M. Owens. The first book is Hooked on the Game, and this was a recommendation from one of you guys in my last book. This one is about a guy and a girl in college. The girl is barely struggling to stay by. She's a scholarship student, and she lives next door to a guy who is rich and clearly has it all. And one night, one of his parties gets a little bit out of hand, and some attendees of the party get a bulldozer that's nearby and basically run into her house. When that happens, she gets a little bit hurt, and basically the father of the guy, the rich one who lives next door, says as his punishment, she should get to go live with him because he has a massive house that he doesn't need all to himself. She needs somewhere else to live now that her house has been basically demolished, one that she was renting. And the father thinks it's good punishment for the guy because basically he'll have to run everything by her. She'll be kind of like his leash, and it's a good way to rein him in. They obviously get pushed together, and there's a little bit of a love-hate relationship. She's clearly attracted to him, but she also thinks that he's this rich, stuck-up guy that has never had to work for anything in his life. But then she starts to realize that he is more than what he appeared, and he actually has a good head on his shoulders, and he kind of realizes that she's the first girl that he's ever really had a true friendship with, and it kind of goes from there. I really liked the story. There's a second part of that book which is called Slade's Game, I think, which is book 1.5. Kade's Game, sorry, Kade. I'm getting all the character names mixed up because I recently read a book where the main character's name was Slade. Kade is the main guy, and Kade's Game is the same story as the first book, but from Kade's perspective, so from the guy's perspective. It is called 1.5, but it's a full book, so I really enjoyed being able to read it from his perspective, and it made me even like the first book more. I think I actually liked reading it from his perspective more. And then there's a second book in the series which is called Tagged and Ashed, which is another two characters who you've kind of met in the first book. So Tag is one of the characters, and he has his own story. If you like that kind of book set in college where you've got kind of the rich people mixed with some of the not so rich people, and it's about them sort of getting together, and they have kind of superficial problems, but you know, it makes for a decent amount of drama, and there's some heat, and there's some romance, and there's some drama and all that kind of stuff. If you like the sound of that, like a college romance novel, then I would recommend checking out these books. I think they were quite inexpensive, and I think the first book was actually free on Kindle at the moment on Amazon, so worth checking out if that kind of thing appeals to you. And the last book that I wanted to mention is The Hookup by Kristen Callihan. This was one of these random purchases. It was an Amazon recommendation when I was buying a few other Kindle books and decided to just give it a go. The guy and the girl meet for the first time in class one day, and he's instantly attracted to her. She's kind of attracted to him straight away too, but he's this big star kind of football player, and she doesn't usually go for jocks. Then they randomly sort of get thrown together at a party one night, and they have a bit of a one-night stand, and she decides that she's willing to be with him just as a hookup. He decides that he kind of would want more of a relationship with her, and it's kind of them going back and forth, and sort of how they navigate their relationship, with her not really wanting one and him wanting her to see him for what he really is and have a relationship together. That's the general premise. Won't go too much into it. Obviously it does have adult themes. It is kind of a new adult romance novel, but again, if you like that kind of thing, the the kind of college drama type story, then I think that you'll enjoy this one. Thought it was quite well written. I liked both the guy and the girl characters. You do get dual perspectives, and overall I ended up really enjoying the book, so it was a great random find. So there are all the books that I want to talk about in this book chat video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. As always, I say this so much, I am like a broken record, but feel free to let me know what you are reading in the comments below. I would love to hear your recommendations, whether you think I'll enjoy it or not. Just let me know. I'm interested to hear what you guys are reading and what books you're enjoying. Other than that, I hope you guys are all having an awesome day, and I'll talk to you on my next video. Bye!
I belong with you, you belong with me.